G'day, I'm Gary from ECI Imports and you're watching ECITV. Enjoy.
G'day Gary, what do you reckon? We're up to episode 8 of ECITV. We're doing all right.
I reckon that's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. It's good to make it this far, I reckon.
I was about to say, who would have thunk we'd get this far?
Who would have thunk?
So in this episode, we've got an interview with Nathan Glab that we've been busting to get out for about 2 weeks now. Finally found a slot. We've got more Show Us Your Bike. I didn't realise that in 2 emails we could have 5 bikes, but we do. And we've got more Bias Opinion with Michael Bias. This time we're going to be talking about the Redbull Pumptrack qualifier they had over in New Zealand a little while back.
Yep.
And some more tech talk, alloy versus Cromo cranks, which has been a lot more interesting than I thought it would be. So we've got some general discussion. Do you want to kick off with that for us, Gazza?
Yeah, we can. But before we do, I'd say, look, just to everyone out there, remember to jump on and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We have changed the handle a bit on that, so they're both now ECITV BMX. So jump on and follow us to stay up to date with everything, and yeah.
And don't forget to subscribe to the ECI Imports YouTube channel.
Definitely. Okay, now you had a bit of communication from one of our viewers.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from our viewers. This one pointed out a couple of problems with our website during the week. It was Kyle Hadland, which was really good to get some feedback and to be able to fix those so nobody else would have to face them. We're able to get onto that and fix it right away, but if anybody else picks up on any bugs on our website or anything weird on Facebook, just let us know and we'll get around to fixing that as soon as we can.
We like receiving weird things on Facebook. Okay, and there's a new challenge out there for Kai Sakakibara's fundraising.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a bit of a lull in the whole Kai Sakakibara fundraising. Now, all of a sudden, there's challenges to try and raise money for him. So last week, we mentioned the bench press of 77 kilos or 77 pounds. And that was more pro-oriented. So this one is the number of squats you can fit in 77 seconds. And what they're doing is raising $1 for every squat that they didn't manage to fit in that 77 seconds. So if it's 77 squats, you do 60, you pay 17.
Oh, okay.
So for it to make a bit more sense, just look in the description. I'll provide a link to our friend from last week, Danielle Pomp, participating in the challenge. She'll get a better idea of how that works. So if you want to join in, go to our description, have a look at the link, and you'll get a better idea.
So what we should do in support of this is challenge each other for some squats. So I think you can go first, and then I'll just donate $77. So I don't think I'd get any done.
We'll do that. I'm going to hold you to that one.
Yeah, I reckon we should.
All right, just donate $77, and I'll offer a squat.
It'd be a lot less painful than me trying to do some squats, I can imagine. And you've got some news on Caroline Buchanan.
Well, yeah, I did notice this week that Caroline Buchanan's on the back of a limited edition version of the classic Nutri-Grain cereal that we have here in Australia. And it did occur to me that it's the first time a BMX racer has appeared on the back of a cereal packet since Jamie Hale's way back in the 1980s, where they had a poster and collector's cards. So it's good to see BMX getting a bit more attention that way.
I did notice that she said it was a dream of hers to one day possibly appear on a cereal packet. So that's another one she can tick off.
It's pretty funny because she would probably never have seen the Jamie Hale's posters and cards.
Oh, I agree.
And you saw a new gear calculator from Renan.
I certainly did, and had a close look at it, and it's a very interesting one. He's called it the Californian Gear Calculator. So if you shoot over to RenanDesignGroup.com, you'll find a gear calculator there, and it does some fantastic comparisons. It gives you the gear inch, but also the rollout in inches, but it does a lot of different comparisons. So once you put your gear in there, it'll tell you a lot of different comparisons with different tires and different rear cogs. So it's quite an involved one, and George at Renan has done a fantastic job of it. It also incorporates decimal gearing, which is something that George feels very strongly about. It's not something that a lot of people are aware of and probably won't use, but it does give you that option. So then you can see that if you are running a 4416, let's say, and you want to try something slightly different, you can put in a decimal of 0.1 or 0.2 and vary it that way. So yeah, very, very good gear calculator. So worth jumping on and having a look.
So let's go on with the Nathan Glab interview. You've had a chance to look at this one, haven't you, Gary?
I did, but it was some time ago, because the interview, we actually did conduct this interview, or you conducted this interview probably 3, maybe 4 weeks ago.
No, I think it was 2, and we just had so much content we couldn't fit it in.
So much going on that we haven't had a chance to put it to air. So yeah, I think you're right. Let's go over to that interview, and then we'll come back to you very shortly.
You going to hit the play button for us, Gazza?
I still can't find it.
Thanks, Nathan, for joining us. What would normally be our big chair interview, so I'm not sure what we call it, the little couch interview, because it's only going to be a short one. So thanks very much for joining us. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you got started in BMX.
Yeah, so I started sort of a little bit later compared to a few of the other guys who are still around like my age. I started about 12. So yeah, just mum and dad. I had like a BMX, and I was just sort of riding around with my mates, and then mum and dad just took me down to the track, and yeah, I wasn't that really into it at first, just because it was pretty hard, and I've been to it the first time I was there, so I was sort of a little bit yeah, a bit scared. But I come back, and mum and dad eventually got me a race bike, and that was a bit better, and yeah, just sort of started to love it. Just sort of once I started to learn to do some jumps and manuals and all that, it was just so cool, because just you get to a stage where you can go to the track and you can learn something new like every time you go to the track, and that was just like, that got me hooked. I was freaking hooked. It was awesome.
So at what age did you start thinking, oh, I'm doing all right here, I might start traveling a bit with racing?
So I was pretty much sort of like around like 12, 13, I started like going around doing like opens, and I think I was 13 or 14. I went to my first Aussie. I think it was one in Cairns in 2011, I think. But that was just for the experience. I'd never, I was still on flats at the time, and I didn't go to flats till I was about like nearly 14. So yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't go into clips until I was about 14, really. So yeah, I raced my first nationals on flats, and yeah, but then started training with Tony Harvey, and I think I was like turning 14, I think, and yeah, then we started racing like the nationals, so went to like Blue Lake, and yeah, and I think in that year, I think 2012, I got my first like state plate, and that was sick. Like that was so cool, just seeing from like the guys like in the class, like where like in my like age class, like we had like Matt White, Josh McLean, Hayden Fletcher, like Jay Beasley, and like heaps of other boys, and man, like that class is like stacked.
Mm-hmm.
And like I already started late, and just like sort of, I don't know, being in the final with those guys, it was just sick. Like it's super cool. But yeah,
So what about nationals? What's your highest finish in a national championship?
So I pretty much I haven't had like the best run with nationals. So I've missed like in the last, like Shepparton, like the last when was last year's Shepparton nationals. I missed like the 2 years before from like injuries and like through the age classes from like up to junior elite. I think I made like quarters or something, and that was it. And then first year junior, I didn't ride very well just because I couldn't get my head around the Supercross track. But then second year junior at Bathurst, I finished up 5th in the semi. So, that was like pretty good considering from my like previous results. And yeah, but it was a little bit of a bummer because I was sitting in 4th, like down the third straight and just mucked it up. So that was my fault. So, but that was probably my best result at Aussie so far. So, yeah.
So you've been in senior league class for a couple of years now, then?
Yeah. So I started. I jumped in like first year. It's been a little bit rough. So I jumped in like first year elite, and then I broke my back at BSX.
Oh yeah, sorry about
that. No, it's all good. So then I pretty much spent most of that year sort of trying to get back to doing normal things, and then the next year, pretty much that same day, like the following year, I separated my shoulder, so I spent most of the next year sort of getting back, and that one was crap. That one sucked. And then the pretty much like last year was pretty good, and got through to racing Aussies. So at least I got there this time. Still didn't have like the greatest result, but it was good to race, in Aussies and in elite. So it was pretty cool.
What's the biggest difference you found going from racing amateur to racing elite?
I guess just sort of you've got to be a lot more sort of like technical on the bike. Like you have to be like your skills have to be a lot better. Just like with the tracks, like the pro sections and like the 8 meter hill, you got to be a lot better on the bike. Like especially like with like age classes, and even when we had A Pro in Victoria, it was sort of you could rely a bit more on like your horsepower. So like for a while, like we were just doing like deadlift, squats, and gates, and just banging them out. And so it was good when we didn't have to jump a pro straight, or the track was pretty basic. You could just like sort of cut everyone up down the first straight. But then once you start to get into elite, where everyone's sort of around that same level, and then you just got jumps to get over. You got to work on like the whole package. So that's that's one thing that I've really noticed is you got to be better on the bike.
So did you spend more time on the track then once you start turning elite?
I'd say. I guess you've sort of always got to be spending like time on the bike, and I think these days like a lot of kids, I think the message has gotten through pretty good because a lot of kids are really good on their bikes now, and I probably but so just pretty much kids, they should just be on the track riding, doing jumps and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
And you got to race your first Supercross races earlier this year.
Yeah.
So how was that? What did you think of the whole experience?
So that was pretty cool. So it was good. Like Shepparton, it was sort of good. Just like I've ridden that track before, and that 8 meter hill I sort of felt pretty comfortable on, and it was good just to give it a crack and just see where I sort of sat with everyone, and no like major results or anything. It was just good experience. It was just good. Get around the track, and it was just cool. And one cool thing was my coach Rob Beans from Florida. was in Australia at the time, and he came and watched at Shepparton. So it was good to meet him in person and go out for dinner with him and just catch up. And yeah, that was probably one of the cool things from the weekend. So that was cool.
Would you say it's the start of your Supercross career? Or do you think you'll try to catch another one or two, maybe even outside the country?
Yeah, so definitely want to do a bit more of it. I really want to get over to do some like USA BMX stuff as well, and just sort of while I'm young, just make the most of everything in BMX, what it has to offer. So yeah.
Obviously, Bathurst wasn't as much of an experience for you with all the racing being cut short. What are your thoughts on the differences between the Bathurst and the Shepparton track?
Like Bathurst, it's not a bad track. Like it's pretty good. Like when we went up and rode it, a few months before, we went up for like that one of the BMXA camp sort of things. And it was fun. Like it's I kind of forgot that like how gnarly like the track is, just how downhill and like fast the track is. So I was a little bit timid like first session out on the track. I'm like, man, this is so fast, like this is ridiculous. But then once you start to sort of like get a little bit comfortable on the track and just be sort of a bit more confident with the speeds that you get, the track like flows like good.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, but I like Shepparton a bit better. Yeah.
Well, you would have had a fair bit of experience at Shepparton. We've had like state championships and nationals there quite a bit over the last few years.
Yeah.
So what's going on at the moment in Nathan Glab land? You're doing a bit of coaching.
So pretty much no coaching on at the moment with all the virus and all that sort of stuff. But just been like things been pretty good. Like with it all, like I pretty much like a month ago I just moved in to a new place, so that's kept me pretty busy for a little bit. And yeah, just been sort of just doing like the things that I haven't really had that much time to do before. Like just been sort of like I took up like juggling. So so people might see that on my like Instagram stories and stuff like that. So I've been learning juggling, and be getting into like meditation and just sort of stuff like just the things that you just didn't really do before. And it's I've been doing a little bit of like work trying to get like online coaching sorted, but now it's been a really good time just because you've got so much spare time just to chip away, and I've just been doing a lot of that stuff really. And then training's been going really good as well. Just sort of it hasn't really changed like a whole lot. Like doing gym stuff from home. I was going out for like just getting on the road bike and just doing a bit of fitness stuff on that. But I'm not a big one to ride on the road, so I've been going on like bike trails. But man, they're chock-a-block full of people. Like I've never seen bike trails that busy. So I bought like an indoor trainer. So now I just rack up the Ks at home. So yeah, I was getting sick of people. It was just too busy out there.
What kind of things would you tell people to do during the lockdown to keep their mind sharp and their skills sharp?
I guess it's sort of like now I'm a pretty good one. I'm a pretty big person on like having like a rest. So, and it's just like, it's not always a bad thing, to get away from the track and, just to sort of chill out for a little bit, and just sort of reset. I think that can, this might help people a little bit, and just be able to come back and just have a think about what they're doing and come back a little bit better. But yeah, like there's still heaps of stuff you can do. Like you can be on your bike, you can, in the backyard, on the street, do manuals, bunny hops, all that sort of stuff. There's so much like on like those little bits on the driveways that like with the gutters, you can just launch off them. Like speed bumps, man, there's so much stuff you can do on your bike. Like you just get out and just be the king of manuals. Yeah.
If someone wanted to contact you about coaching, you do one-on-one coaching or private sessions?
Yeah. I haven't had that much lately, just because people haven't really asked me about it. But yeah, I love doing that stuff. I think like one-on-one stuff's awesome. Yeah. If they want to contact me, my email is just nathanglabpt@gmail.com, or just chuck me a message on Facebook, or I got my Instagram, which is nathanglab561, or I've got my coaching Instagram, which is just Glab's Coaching. But yeah, so just shoot me a message on whatever you want, and yeah, we'll have some fun and work it all out.
So on a normal week, you do a little bit of group coaching as well. What would your days normally be, or do they change quite a bit?
Yeah, so I do. So every Monday I drive out to Ballarat. So yeah, we start from like 4:30. We do 2 sessions. Yeah, so that's really good there. And the people like Ballarat, those guys are awesome. Everyone there is just so chill. Yeah, and then on Wednesdays we do it at Park Orchards. So we start from 4:45 and we go till 7 with a couple sessions. So doing like beginners and then expert following, and but yeah, it's like same thing with PO. Like yeah, all the riders and everyone down there, they're just like awesome. Like they're so cool. Yeah.
So it's only those 2 tracks, Park Orchards and Ballarat?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. I want to start to look at doing a little bit more on like maybe like a Friday evening, because that's sort of my last spare day during the week. But yeah, at the moment, or what we were doing before is Mondays and Wednesdays. But yeah, I always do want to look at doing a little bit more. So yeah.
All right, we'll cut it short there. Thanks very much for joining us, and hope to catch up with you again soon.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Thanks, mate. So that was a great interview from young Victorian pro Nathan Glab. He's always one of those happy, smiling faces you see at the track from week to week, and it's good to sort of get to know him a bit better and learn about his experiences over the past few years. Hopefully we can get some more riders of his caliber involved and get to know them a bit better as well. What was your take on that one, Gazza? What do you think?
Look, for someone who hasn't been in the sport a long time, like you said during the interview that he did start quite late, he's made a lot of inroads and achieved quite a bit for such a small career as such. So, yeah, very good. I enjoyed it. What I remember of it from weeks ago.
It'd be good to see how he progresses as a professional BMXer and on the trajectory that he's on at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving right along, we have the, I was going to say infamous, but it's not really infamous, the Show Us Your Bike.
It is a bit of a guiding light to the week for me. I always look forward to having a look at these bikes.
It's great to see what people put into designing these bikes and colour matching and everything. Yeah. So I hope everyone enjoys it out there, that we bring these to you just to have a quick look and give these people a bit of an opportunity to get their bikes up in lights as such. And yeah, so I think we'll go over. The first one we've got is Graham Scarf. So yeah, Graham writes, "Hi guys. These are my sons Lachlan 9 and Joshua 6 on their new Stay Strong V3s. They absolutely love them and can't wait to get back to racing." Unfortunately, I know Graham, and yeah, he's only just built these up, so the boys would be itching to try and get on the track. I'll just move it across. There's actually a picture of the 2 boys. There they are there on both their bikes. So they've got, they're pretty well matched up in componentry. So there's a black Expert and a purple Mini, all tricked out with Answer dagger forks, Answer whole shot hubs, Promax rims, inside bars, box seats and brakes, Croupy stem, Promax stem, Croupy and Promax stem on either bikes, Answer cranks and Promax headset. These have to be one of the nicest finished frames I've seen, and were definitely worth the wait. Lachlan has been racing since he was 4 and Josh since he was 2. Now, when Graham says that it's definitely worth the wait, unfortunately with COVID-19 and Chinese New Year and everything else, these frames were due in at the end of last year, and they've only just basically hit the Australian market last month. So all those riders out there that had these frames on order were very, very patient, and definitely worth the wait and look fantastic.
If these 2 frames and last week's 2 frames from the Whitlings are any indication, there's going to be a heck of a lot of these V3s on the track when we come out of COVID.
Definitely. One of the things you notice, probably more so on this bike than any because of the side profile, is the top tube. Very unusual ovalized top tube. So it's quite narrow but wide. When you see them in the flesh, they're pretty trick. They are awesome looking frames. So, yeah, you are going to see a fair few of them out there, definitely. But, yeah, beautiful bikes and well presented.
I like the massive smiles on the kids' faces, so obviously kids love them too.
And obviously spent a lot on the bikes because they couldn't afford shoelaces. Yeah, you're right. They got massive smiles on their faces and pretty cool looking shirts too. And matching shorts. They must have just got home from school or something. Oh, hang on. Are they actually schooling at the moment? So, yeah, okay. So that's them. Very, very nicely presented. Okay, moving right along. You can do this one from Kyle.
Okay, let's go to Kyle. So Kyle's the guy who emailed us about the problems with the website. So thanks again, Kyle. He says in his email, "Hey guys, finally got the bike together. Now I just need to learn how to ride it. BMX dad bike build to get out and ride with my boys. The goal of the build was something that was comfortable for my size, and that if I crash, it will be me and not a bike failure." So he has, someone's flicking around between bikes.
Sorry, I thought there was another. Oh, sorry, I thought there was another picture.
So he's got a 2003 GHP. He's got S&M race forks, S&M 29er bars, profile race cranks, which look very familiar. Profile Imperial sprocket, Stay Strong 57 mil stem with a profile stem lock, and he's got some Profile Elite hubs, Alienation combo rims, which also look very familiar, and I'll get back to that one eventually. He's got Alienation grips, Deity Black Cat pedals, which I think are a popular mountain bike pedal, and he's finished it off with box parts. So getting back to the cranks that look familiar and the wheels, that looks like an old set of my gear, Gary.
It certainly is. It's an X-Team set that we're able to turn over and make this customer quite happy. One of the things that actually stands out with this a little bit is the way that profile hubs can be modified or changed considerably, because this frame had a 10 mil rear dropout and a 20 mil front dropout on the forks. And the hubs on this particular set of wheels were the opposite. So the rear was 20 mil and the front was 10 mil. So we were able to modify the hubs to fit the frame and forks quite well. But yeah, the rear isn't an Elite. It's actually a freewheel rear hub.
I like the photo. It kind of represents his path to some fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Background.
The good old Warburton Rail Trail.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
No cows?
And this is his 2 boys. So we've got a 2020 Chase Edge Pro, standard except for Stamp 1 pedals. And the other one is a 2020 DK Swift Junior, standard except for shorter cranks. So again, on the Warburton Rail Trail at the township of Wandon, which I think they're based in. But yeah, good photo there of the 2 boys and obviously Kyle's previous bike.
He needs to buy himself a selfie stick.
Yeah, so he can get in on the action. So yeah, very good. So there's 5 bikes in two entries.
I love that BMX is such a family sport.
That is good, isn't it? And it's great to see everyone getting involved like they are.
Yeah. There's not too many sports where dad can jump on and get involved at the same level.
How do I stop sharing? Oh, there.
You
Stop
hit
sharing.
the sharing button.
Oh, see, now I worked out how to share it, and then I couldn't remember how to not share it. So,
In episode 16, you'll be laughing.
I might even have the email address worked out by then, which is ECITV@bmxultra.com.
Congratulations.
I even wrote it down this week.
We should get some stickers done.
Now, I've got a bit of a dilemma here because we've got to pick a winner.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Now, do we end up giving away 3 T-shirts or do we end up giving away 2 T-shirts?
I reckon we give away 1 and then just make them fight for it. Hey, do you want to make it real easy? Anyone provide a T-shirt size? No.
Yes. I think one of them did. Yeah, I think it was Graham. And you know what? With a smile on those kids' faces, I think we'll send them over to Graham. So yeah, so we have Lockie and Joshua. You'll be receiving a T-shirt each in the mail from ECITV. Well done, and thank you for your entries. Now, please keep in mind that when you do enter, if you can, give us your T-shirt size and a return address just to make my life a little bit easier, and it means you get your goods quicker. And I'm sure we'll have a pile of stickers and a few other things that we can drop in the mix.
Okay, so on to the bias opinion. It's always good to catch up with Michael Bias from New Zealand. Just loves his BMX. So I think last time we spoke to him, it was about coaching, and I thought we'll mix it up a little bit. He won the Redbull Pumptrack World Championship qualifier at New Zealand. So, with parks and things starting to open up around here, I thought it's probably appropriate that we talk to him about Pumptrack and that particular Pumptrack event. So why don't you hit the play button for us, Gazza? All right. Thanks for joining us again, Michael. Today we really want to talk to you about the Redbull Pumptrack experience. Not many people get to experience pump track racing at that level. So what was your first impression of the event when you turned up there?
Well, I was lucky enough to be in Europe last year when they did the one in Holland. So I got to go there for the day and do that one. It's typical of a Red Bull event, I guess. It's big, it's organised, it's well run. The tracks, I'd never ridden one. You sort of look at them online, see other people riding them, and they look pretty chilled. Like, you look like you can fly around them, but they're super technical. You've got to be super precise with your manuals, your jumps, and your turns. So it took a little bit to get used to last year in Holland, and unfortunately I got a flat tyre in the quarterfinal, so I was out. They announced that it was in New Zealand early March, so I wanted to do that one. Obviously you get a free trip to Austria, and they announced the rainbow jerseys last year. I wanted to get along to that, and it was good, really good. So I popped down for the day, and it was super competitive. Like, all the local guys had it dialed. Like, it was, I don't know how many corners it was, 13, 14. You've got to set yourself up right for the corners and get the right manuals, the right jumps, and think about if it's a double and then a roller, or whatever, roller, double, roller. So it was kind of a lot to take in for a day, as every lap you can't afford to make a mistake, as the differences are so close. But it was awesome. Like, it was more stressful than a World Cup for me, because at that start you can't make a single mistake. Where in BMX, it's like there's 8 guys. You can choose your outcome, and in pump track it was like you've got no say on the other guy. So I loved it. It's a lot different to BMX, but it was cool. And I think with Red Bull in charge, it's gonna go places.
Do you normally hit up pump tracks wherever you go, or is it just for these special events?
I mean, in New Zealand, we don't actually have that many. There's one where I live, and I've gone to that a few times. I helped sort of test ride it and build it, but no, I'd much rather go to a BMX track. So I mean, if it was pissing down with rain or something and I couldn't go to the BMX track, I might go to the pump track. But if it's pump track or BMX track, I'm going to choose BMX track 10 times out of 10.
So what would be the split of BMXer versus mountain biker at the qualifier?
At the qualifier, it was probably 30% mountain biker and 70% BMX. One of the Crankworks, well, he's actually leading the Crankworks right now, Bas van Stenbergen from Canada. He was over for Crankworks, so he stayed on, and he did it on his mountain bike. He got 4th, I think, and depends what track, but obviously the world champ's a mountain biker, former BMXer turned mountain biker, Tommy Zula. I think depends what track. If it's tight, technical, lots of turns, I think the BMX is going to come out on top just because it's so nimble and agile. But if it's long straights and quite smooth, I think the mountain bike will carry its speed quite a lot more. So it's interesting. I like the whole BMX versus mountain bike thing, and it's been proven that mountain bikes can beat BMX as well. So
do you think it makes a difference being a bituminized pump track? They're all bituminized pump tracks, those ones, aren't they? The Red Bull ones?
Yeah. All the Velo Solution ones are sort of similar builds in terms of like the jumps are the same shapes and the corners are they're vertical and they're nicely shaped. So they're all bitumen, which I think helps a hell of a lot. You can just go 100% around those corners and know that you're going to shoot out the other side pointing some way. You don't know which way. But yeah, it's come a long way since dirt pump tracks.
Do you get all serious and change your tire pressure and gearing and all that sort of stuff for it?
Not my gearing, but tire pressure I didn't. Only because I honestly I couldn't ride with my normal tire pressure. I ran normally in my Maxxis tires 90 psi, and I was rolling the tires off the rim. So like I'd go into a turn and I'd just feel that tires rolling, which obviously you can't push the limits if it's like that. So I pumped, I think it was 100 psi into my tires, and yeah, worked well. But no, I wasn't warming up and warming down for each race run or anything. It wasn't put in my big seat there or anything. It was kind of, yeah, I guess that's what's cool about the pump track. It comes down to your skill. It's not about, it takes away the gate aspect and the pedaling, which is cool. So
is it all flat pedals or were you clipped in?
I think everyone was flat pedal. I'm not sure if it's a rule, but you've got to start with 1 foot down, and then you sort of get pedaling, and the start line was 20 meters from where you start. So I mean, you don't want to waste time trying to clip in.
So you got 20 meters to get up to speed. Then is that how it works?
Oh, right. Yeah. Also, if I was on clips, because the track's so, I don't know if I'd trust myself on clips. And like we said last show, sometimes I do feel a lot more comfortable on flats, just knowing that your feet aren't locked in. I do like clips and I feel comfortable on clips, but I guess when you're like, it's hard feeling to explain, but you get so many G-forces going around those corners when you sort of jump into it. You just tense and it sort of shoots you out the other side. I don't know if you want to be on clips, to be honest, and it's not going to make much of a difference.
So on the day when you rock up, how many riders are there initially?
It's differed. So I think last year in Holland there was 60, and it was a huge range between skate park guys, mountain bikers, BMXers. We're in Cambridge this year. We did have a little bit of variety as well, but I think there was 30. I want to say 34, and only 2 guys missed out on the finals, which is still a decent amount. Like 30, it's still a good amount. We don't get that many for an elite BMX race. So.
Was the podium full of BMXers?
Yeah, so it was me, a junior elite BMX rider, a former BMX rider who's turned into track cycling, and then fourth was the mountain biker. So the podium's 4 guys. So top one gets free flight to Austria, where the worlds are, and then second, third, fourth get free entry, so they get to race if they can get the flights and stuff there. So it's cool.
So does Red Bull cover the flights and accommodation?
Yeah, so Red Bull cover flights, accommodation, and I'm pretty sure you get some spending money while you're there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Who won the ladies?
Jessie Smith. So the women's podium was Jessie Smith, Sarah Walker, and Rebecca Petch, I want to say. Maybe it was Manon Vestra, the girl from Holland, who's been in New Zealand. It might have been, I can't remember now. But yeah, it was all BMXs.
So tough competition, obviously.
It is super tough. And in pump track, I think the lap times were around 20 seconds. And I mean, it's maybe it wasn't 20 seconds. I actually can't remember now. But the differential between everyone was super close. Like, it was a tenth each lap, a tenth, and you had to be on it for each lap. And I remember in the final, the guy before me went, and I seen him make the tiniest mistakes. I don't even think anyone else would have seen it, but I just seen him get off balance before a corner, and it just meant he couldn't attack that corner. And I remember before that race just thinking, if I do, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if I do a 95 or 90% lap and just make sure I hit every point around those corners, I should get it. And I think I won by a tenth, so it was it was so close. But yeah.
Do you still feel a bit of a burn after a full lap?
Yeah, probably more so than BMX, actually, because you're always sort of pumping or holding on to those handlebars. Where in BMX, you kind of get a little bit of a break when you jump, a tiny break, or around the corners. They're not so physical on your body, where those pump track, like, you're always under pressure. You're turning, you're pumping, you're jumping, you're manualing constantly for 20 seconds. So yeah, you do get a huge burn. And my initial plan was to show up on the day and just smash out an hour or 2 hours of practice and just get that track like perfect. And after 20 minutes, I was like, I've got to stop, otherwise I'm going to be dead for racing. It was super tiring.
You said there are only about 34 riders there for the event. Did you get plenty of practice?
Yep. So it's a public track, so I mean, you can go there for months before and practice. It was 2.5 hours away from my house, so I didn't bother going down and practicing. But yeah, you get tons of practice. You kind of have just a free practice session where you can just do as many laps as you want. No one goes for the whole, I think it was 2 hours. And then after qualifying, you get another practice for the final. So you get plenty of practice.
So I can see the prizes behind you. Can you just show us? There's a big block of wood or something. So
these are the number plates you get. So one you get when you enter, and the other one you get when you qualify. So if you qualify third, you get number 3. This is the trophy. It's actually a bike stand, which is pretty cool. But it's just a big. It's kind of like a mountain shape of wood. It's a pretty cool prize, actually. And we also got like a backpack, quite a good quality backpack, and some towels. Yeah, just like I said before, Red Bull sort of does everything.
Did they give you a full supply of Red Bull throughout the day and all the rest of it?
Yeah, there are free Red Bulls.
What's your biggest takeaway from the event? I guess your best memory from the event?
I think the biggest takeaway, learning really from it, was the ability to ride at like 90-95% or even sometimes a little bit less, to sort of do the job but not overdo it, because on those tracks mistakes are bound to happen. And I think there was probably 6 or 7 guys that could have won that day, and it was just who didn't make the mistakes when they needed to. Because I think I looked back on the lap times, and I didn't have the fastest lap time all day. Everyone was sort of around the lap time we were doing, but it was delivering it when you needed to, and not delivering it 100%, but doing what you needed to. So I think that was kind of I want to say, a skill that I tried to develop on the day. It's not pushing 100%, and it's so hard to sort of do that when it's a free trip to Austria on the line. It's like you want to push a little bit harder, because in practice you could do this section super quick, but in racing you've got to do it a little bit slower, but get it really good. So that's sort of a big learning I took from it. And it does sort of apply in BMX as well, because in practice it's quite easy to rail the first corner and get a mint second straight as perfect as can be, but then come racing, after doing a gate, a first straight, a corner, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that second straight as perfect. So it's kind of not going 100%. You always want to go 100%, but just almost scaling it back a little bit. And it's like gates. I don't think you want to give it 100% every time, because it's better off to get 7 gates throughout the day that are 90% than one at 100% and 6 others you hit. So I think that was a skill I learned, and I've had that from BMX, and also my pump tracks at Crankworks. I've kind of learned that.
I think that's about all I've got for you today. Thanks very much for sharing your Red Bull experience with us.
No worries.
And good luck when you get to go to Austria.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I guess we really should congratulate Michael first for his win and his free trip to Austria. It's just unfortunate the year that he managed to win it. Hopefully he still gets to do it this year.
Well, the final's in early next year, I believe, isn't it?
Have they shifted it? Last he heard when I spoke to him, it was September.
Okay.
But I'd say that's still a bit too close. There's still a lot more qualifying races to run, and I think eventually it'll be next year before they run those World Championships. And he gets to have a chance to run the World Champion stripes. They've actually got a UCI approval for World Championships. So, yeah.
And he'll be racing against one of our local guys of Wade Turner, who also won the Mangambia round.
Yeah, so he won Australia's qualifier. It'll be interesting to see if Bodie decides to go over with Wade, because they're always head-to-head on that sort of tighter track.
Well, they're only a fraction of a second difference, actually, between them on the Mangambia qualifier, the Australian qualifier.
And that's what Michael was saying in New Zealand too, that it comes down to making the least number of mistakes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll catch up again with Michael in a couple of weeks. So if you have any suggestions about what we might talk to Michael about, he loves to chat, so he's up for anything. He did suggest that he might do some how-tos, so how to bunny hop, how to manual. Maybe we'll get those through. But if you've got anything else you want to ask him, just sing out. Email us at, what's the email address?
ECITV@bmxultra.com.
And we'll ask him to...
I'm so proud.
So make sure you send in your questions for Michael, and we'll pass them on and get some of his insights. All right, what's up next, Gary?
We're kicking off the alloy versus chromoly crank debate. So we've got a few figures that we've thrown together comparing weights, prices of some of the popular alloy versus chromoly 2 and 3-piece crank sets. Now these are the pro size, so what we'll be doing is probably doing similar but for junior cranks in following episodes. So what we'll do is we'll list a few. We've got Shimano DX, Promax, Profile Elite, Box 3s, Profile No Boss, and XS LSPs, Insight RLCs, Answer Accelerator, and the new Speedline Elite Hollow Pros. We've got all the weights, prices listed. So that's all based on 175 millimeter crank with no bottom bracket, but including a spider. And that just helps you with a few comparisons.
So make sure you go to the description. We might put a table up on the video. What do you reckon, Gary? And people can pause it and have a look.
As long as we've got someone who knows how to do that.
I'm sure we'll find someone.
No.
So the alloy versus chromo cranks isn't a big discussion. People really are pretty much one way or the other. But I have spoken to quite a few people about their choices, why they made them, and quite a number of factors come into play, and some of them are more common than others. But one of the ones I've seen people switch from chromo to alloy, and they might have been on chromo for quite a while. And the interesting part of that was stance. So that's how far apart your pedals are. People tend to say that profile might clip your ankle, but I think that's when you're locked into a clip pedal, which doesn't happen to all of us. And it only happens to certain people depending on the size of their ankle, the pedals they're using, all that sort of stuff. So we won't get into too much detail. So one of the most common factors is weight, strength. People like the feel of one versus the other. They might think that chromoly is stiffer, alloy is stiffer. Me personally, I was running 185 cranks from about the age of 16, and they never were available in aluminium. And obviously there's price. So you got your cast aluminium versus CNC'd, and so some chromoly cranks might be cheaper than some alloy cranks. Some people are more interested in reliability over weight or price or anything else. So I've used chromoly cranks, must be since I was 14 or 15. So quite a while now, and I've found them reliable. I've never had any serious issues with chromoly cranks. And of course, there's accessibility. I think everybody in Australia knows how hard it is to get Shimano DXRs here versus getting a profile crank or an answer crank or even box. They're so much easier.
I think one of the things you've touched on there is something that we probably should include in the table, and that is warranties.
Yeah.
Because the reliability and backup service and everything like that, I think on that table where we've got weights and everything, we'll insert an additional column and put warranties on there as well, just to know how well you're covered with each of those individual cranks.
Warranty is certainly a factor. If you're going to be spending, say, $1,000 on, the high-end cranks, you want to know that they're going to support those if something should fail, spindle, crank arm. I've always liked the idea of making sure that the product is lifetime warranty, and that's the case with Profile, but I'm not sure what it is with others.
Yeah. We'll find out. We'll delve a bit deeper and include that in the table just to give everyone a bit of a understanding of it.
So we've got a bunch of opinions from people. Actually, what we'll do is we'll play them back to back. So we've got.
I was going to say, we've got 3 of them, so we'll just loop them on.
Yeah. So we've got Michael Bias, we've got Paul Knox coming back as our tech guru. You'll see a lot more of him in the future once COVID eases up. And Bill Ryan from Supercross Speedline, who we asked a couple of questions, but it blew out to a full-blown discussion, which is not only about chromoly and alloy cranks, but also about carbon and 3D printing and that sort of thing. So hit the play button and we'll just run them back to back. So firstly, what cranks do you run, alloy or chromoly?
I run alloy, Shimano DXR 175 cranks, stock, standard, nothing special.
And what made you choose those specifically?
I guess the stiffness, the sturdiness of them, quite strong, no flex in them. So obviously the power's going straight into my bike, not into the flex.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for that. See you, mate. All right, Paul, thanks for joining us again on our discussion about chromo versus alloy cranks. What we're going to do is just ask a bunch of people their thoughts on or their preferences for alloy over carbon, or now you've messed me up. Alloy over chromo.
One piece cranks. There you go.
Are they steel?
Of course.
So yeah, what's your preference as far as cranks goes, and why?
Currently, I'm running chromoly cranks on both my bikes. previously I was running alloy cranks on the cruiser and Cromo on the 20-inch. And my main reason for going back to the Chromos on the cruiser was I was playing around with crank length. And with the cranks that I'm running, the profiles, it's very easy just to slip the arms off and slip another set of arms on, so you can experiment and play with them backwards and forwards.
So is it a cheaper option than buying complete alloy sets, do you think, as well?
Yeah, because once you've got a good spindle, like in my case, I've got a hollow titanium, got the bearings all set up in the bottom bracket, the chain alignment's all perfect. There's no messing around. You undo a bolt at either end, slide the arms off, slide the other arms on, done.
Do you still run 185s?
Currently running 180s. That was part of the playing around. I went 185s to 180s, then went up to 182s just to see if I could see any feeling difference, which I couldn't, and then back to the 180s.
The story, I believe, to be correct, is you didn't realize you're actually running 180s. You thought you were running 185s, so you didn't even notice the difference that way.
Yeah, correct. I thought I had put 185s on my 20-inch to match 185s on my cruiser, and I hadn't. And then at the end of the national series, I checked my track times, and the 20 with the 180s was actually quicker than the 185s. Experimentation.
Now that you've decided on crank size, would you switch to alloy, or do you think you just stick with Cromo?
I'll probably stick with the Cromo. I've actually swapped backwards and forwards between alloys and Chromos over the years. The Chromos, simply because now I'm running two bikes, I'd be up for replacing two sets of cranks, bottom brackets and everything. Whereas now, if I do feel like changing length again, or even changing colours, all you got to do is pop the arms off and swap them over.
What are the other benefits you see in Cromo over alloy?
I don't notice any difference really in stiffness, but I'm not pushing out the horsepower of the big guys, and I'm not quite as heavy as I used to be, or some of the bigger guys. So with the Cromo, I don't know. They just feel better to me.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to make it too boring for everybody else. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the input. We'll talk to you again soon.
No trouble.
But it's funny because back then it was like, okay, how do we build a better mousetrap? And part of the reason that I was trying to figure out how to build a better mousetrap is that I got tired of breaking my cranks all the time. And that was something to where I'd always be off at the local trails, off at the local tracks, and there's nothing worse than the feeling of snapping your crank. That's a horrible feeling when you think that you've got a solid landing and you're not going to have a solid landing because that foot is just going to go right to the ground. So there's a lot that can be changed and done. There still is a lot that can be changed and done, but man, the cranks have come so far. So you tell me where you want to go, and we can start moving forward from there.
I guess it's interesting to me that you've started off with alloy cranks, moved to chromoly, and it seems that alloy is quite popular again, and you're not doing so much in the way of chromoly. So I don't know if we need to really talk about why, because it seems to me, it appears to be trend driven rather than preference of one over the other. It's what sells, basically, isn't it, at the moment?
Well, I think a lot of it is for what sells over the moment. I also think that there's a good three-piece chromoly crank was always a nice way to do it back in the day. And a lot of that was that the good aluminum cranks that were available, everybody always had a problem with the spindle area. So a good 3-piece chromoly crank came out and it was using a larger spindle. So then everybody started doing a good aluminum crank with a larger spindle. And everything's just kind of moved along. When Shimano came out and started doing their Holotech forged, the hollow forged arms, when Magic Motorcycles started doing the hollow aluminum arms, that just revolutionized what could be done with the aluminum arms, because the aluminum material for an arm with that larger spindle, the aluminum material is a stiffer material, so it's going to give you a better power transfer. The larger spindle gives you better power transfer. So it really depends upon what you're looking for out of the crank. Everybody goes for the tried and true chromoly just because you've got such a greater yield strength for that material. You know that that chromoly crank is just going to be reliable time and time again. Where the aluminum crank, you just got a stiffer crank and you get a better power transfer, you get a better feel for it. And now with the new carbon cranks that are on the market, they're still in their infancy. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done to perfect them and continue moving forward. And we're really trying to push that technology forward, because just like on the frames and the forks, that's part of where things are going to happen to go. But there's so much more that can be done. The forming technology that can be done, the material technology that can be done, the shapings, the stress risers. I mean, there's so much stuff that can be changed that it's just going to really change the way crank technology moves forward. And you can see that already in the road and the mountainside.
Do you think as carbon becomes cheaper, which I imagine will happen over time, we'll see a lot more carbon cranks on bikes?
The carbon technology, as far as it getting cheaper, I don't know how much cheaper it's going to get until people start to adopt to an injection molded style of a carbon. Because right now the biggest cost, aside from the material itself, is the hand layup, the working of laying up the material and getting it in the mold, making sure there's no wrinkles, making sure that there's no voids, making sure everything's done. It's a very time-consuming process, and of course, you know, time equals money, so that just really keeps the cost up. And that's part of where a steel crank, a good chromoly crank, was always such an affordable situation, because it was quick and easy. It was down and dirty to do a good chromoly crank. You know, you take a chromoly tube, boom, boom, you know, you miter up the end, drop in a broach, weld it up, boom, send it off to heat treat, there you go. It was very quick, very easy, very inexpensive to make. Especially compared to what you're doing with a hollow forged aluminum crank. So you've got a lot of different levels of what you're looking at and what you want to achieve out of a crank. So what you have to do is you have to decide, you know, what is my goal for the crank? Do I want it to be just strong and light? Do I want something that's going to be stiff and light? Do I want something that's going to be durable? What's my cost factor that's going to be involved on the process? There's a lot of different things that you have to look at, and you know, what's going to be your ultimate goal.
Do you think 3D technology might be adopted soon for BMX? I noticed that track cycling is starting to use it a fair bit. As
far as the 3D printing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 3D printing I think is going to start to come in certain things. There's a lot of good 3D technology for 3D printing, and I think that a lot of print on demand for non-stress and non-structural parts, I think, can start to become a big thing. There's a lot of good 3D print places that can now do print on demand for the files. So I think we're going to start to slowly see some things like that start to happen. I'm not sure what exactly yet though. So far for the track bikes and for the road cyclists, a lot of what you're starting to see have been GPS computer holders. You're starting to see different different brackets and different little things like that, which so far you don't have a need for that on a BMX bike. A BMX bike is a very, very simple animal compared to what they're dealing with. But I can see where some of those parts might start to trickle in.
I need to send you a link. The Australian track cycling team, in preparation for the Olympics, are actually 3D printing titanium handlebars and cranks, I think, at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay. I know that there's been a couple companies that are printing titanium lugs to do carbon fiber frames. So what they're trying to do to try and keep the pricing down so that they can actually use a carbon fiber tube rather than using a carbon fiber molded situation, so they can experiment with angles, bottom bracket height, and different things. They're 3D printing titanium lugs. You bond in the carbon tubes, and then boom, away you go. You've got a pretty custom carbon fiber frame fairly inexpensively. So that's cool if they're 3D printing the titanium cranks and the bars now, though. That's pretty cool.
Do you think 3D printing lugs and then applying them to a carbon is going to be as good as, say, the Envy black frame, which is almost completely carbon with very little add-ons? Like, you've got titanium plates for your drop
Oh no. I mean, to do something like that, I mean, it's great for prototyping. To do a prototyping situation like that, it's great. As far as a production situation, there's no way. You're really limiting yourself at that point, because you're limiting to using a stock tube. And when you're limiting yourself to doing a stock tube, you can't form and you can't flow the way that the frame is going to ride. And you're also really limiting yourself to what the head tube is going to do as far as a stress riser flowing into the frame. So it's great for prototyping. It's great for going out and testing, saying, hey, do I need to change the head tube angle 1/4 degree? Do I need to change the head tube angle 1/2 degree? Do I want to change my bottom bracket 1/4 of an inch? Do I need to change this 1/8 of an inch? It's great for all that prototyping rather than going out and cutting a $65,000 mold. Hey, I'd much rather go and titanium 3D print some lugs and build a couple custom frames and say, hey, let's go try this, rather than say, hey, let's go cut a $65,000 mold, build a piece, and go, oh, yeah, that's not exactly what we needed to do. Let's take this $65,000 scrap and put it over in the corner and let someone use it as a desk. So...
sorry, it's always humors me that whenever we talk, we go very tangential. So coming back to cranks.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's my fault. I kind of drove that in that direction. What is your personal preference? If you were to build up a bike for yourself, would you use Cromo or alloy cranks?
Ooh, good question. The bike that I just built up, the Perry Kramer tribute bike, I actually threw Redline flight cranks on it. And I can tell you, riding that bike with the Redline flight cranks feels very spindly compared to riding the RS7 that I have built up that has the Speedline alloy cranks with the 24mm spindle. So personal preference, if I'm going to ride it, I'd like to use that 24mm spindle or a 30mm spindle with the aluminum arms. It makes me feel a lot more secure. I mean, obviously I've got a lot more girth. I'd like to lose a little bit of this, but as the technology changes, as the bikes get stiffer, as the bikes get faster, and as you can really start to feel the way that the bike rides, the Cromo cranks with that 19mm spindle, which a 19mm spindle 30 years ago was huge compared to the 1/2-inch spindle. But now that we're up to a 24mm spindle and a 30mm spindle and a 35mm spindle, a 24mm or a 30mm spindle with aluminum arms or carbon arms wins out any day compared to a Cromo set.
So the new Speedline cranks that you released recently, they're a 24mm spindle?
They're a 24mm spindle, yes.
And they just come with a outboard bottom bracket?
It comes with an EB24, which is the outboard bottom bracket. So
which
it's
is Euro compatible.
Yeah, full Euro compatible.
And what's different about the newer Speedline cranks that wasn't in previous versions?
We changed a little bit of the forging tool. So it is a hollow forged. We did change a little bit of the shaping, and we changed a little bit of the internal profile angling. So on the older crank, there was a lot more rounded shaping to allow for some different stress risers. The newer cranks are a little bit more angular, and by going with a little bit more angular shaping, we're able to achieve a little bit of extra stiffness, shave a little bit of extra weight, and keep that same stress flow going the way that we'd like to keep it going.
How important is Q factor in developing cranks for BMX racing?
Okay, Q factor is something that everybody talks about a lot, and it's something that you really have to watch out for. BMXers are not as dependent upon Q factor as a road biker, because we're not sitting there on just a constant spin for a 5-hour period, 6-hour period. So our hips aren't just constantly up and down going for that. So it is an important thing to watch out for, but most of the cranks that are on the market nowadays have a fairly common Q factor. Everybody's got it set up to where the human hip width is fairly standard, and as long as you're adopting to that, you're going to be fairly okay. Some companies will use a pedal washer to space your pedals out. Some people use a wider pedal spindle. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to fine-tune your Q factor, but everybody's really pretty dialed in with the Q factor anymore. It's not like anybody's got these crazy 12-degree, 20-degree angles shooting out from the spindle anymore to where you're, you know, pedaling like a duck anymore. You're all pretty much in line anymore.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks very much for your time, Bill.
Anytime, Shane.
I'm sure we'll catch up with you again soon.
Sounds great. I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Okay, well, that should give you a bit of a cross-section of a few opinions. Now, with that in mind, if you do have a strong opinion on one or the other, feel free to email us. We've told you the email address a few times. Or even if you're interested, hit us up. We'll jump on Skype and have a talk to you about it. No matter who you are, whether you're a dad, whether you're a rider, whether you're part of the industry, we'd love to just have a chat and get your opinion on, or, you know, we may have missed a valid point in regards to them. So, yeah, just hit us up. We're more than happy to jump on Skype at any stage, do a quick interview, and, yeah, cover it that way.
So, Gary, you were a racer at one stage. What cranks did you run?
One piece.
Oh, really? Chromo?
Yeah. My original bike, yeah, I had one-piece cranks, 180 Chromo one-piece, but yeah, then did end up with profile cranks eventually once I got involved in it a little bit more. But yeah, I started off. Most people probably wouldn't even know what a one-piece crank is. So back in the day.
So you've got access to quite a lot of equipment there. If you were to build up a bike for yourself today to start racing again, because we all know you want to, what cranks do you think you'd put on it?
Being the size that I am, about 105 kilos, and not that weight conscious on a frame because I wouldn't be very competitive, I'd probably go with profile column cranks. I like the chunkiness of the column arms and the 22mm spindle. So, yeah, I'd probably lean towards the column cranks. I also like the idea of a bossless crank. I love being able to rotate the chainring so you don't get uneven wear and just the clean lines of it. So, yeah, probably profile column cranks for me. What about yourself?
Well, I've got a mixture. I've been running the profile race cranks for such a long time, and they've never let me down. But I've got a set of columns. They're not long enough for me. They're only up to 180. So it'll be, I'm happy with race cranks, but I've got elite cranks on both my race bikes right now. And Personally, I like that they're a nicer, different looking crank, but I'm just as happy on a race crank.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show that how strong they are, because you're a big guy and running something the length of 185s with the leverage you would have with a 185, for them to last, quite some time with you, it's definitely shows the strength of them. So
I was on 185, now I'm on 182, which is still a length that's not common with aluminium cranks.
I suppose that's another point that we could make with the cranks too, is that, profiles do offer size range that is pretty hard to find anywhere else, considering they go up to 190s. It's and start at 145s, I believe, in a standard race crank. It's a massive range that they do offer. But anyway, that's enough on profile.
Yes.
So one of the other things that a lot of people talk about with cranks is the Q factor.
Yeah, so we won't go into depth and explain Q factor. It's compared to stance, but if you want to find out a bit more about that, we'll provide a link in the description on the video.
Very good. Now, we've also got what?
I just realised we've come to the end. It just feels like we need to start talking.
Yeah. Now, we did have the opportunity where I got contacted during the week by an ex-pro racer and a good friend of mine, Tony Harvey, that a lot of people would know, Hitman Harvey, and was interested in doing a dad joke battle with Tom Sinmar. So we've organised it through Dozer to introduce them, and we're going to play that midweek, aren't we?
Yeah, we should get that around Wednesday. When I was talking to Michael Bias last night and I mentioned the name, he smiled and he asked how PG rated this one's going to be. But I think we managed to keep it generally.
Yeah. Look, we do apologise. It is probably a little bit risque, but it is all just in good fun. So it was quite good. It was what I really enjoyed is the fact that he approached us and got it happening, because Tony just loves being involved in anything with BMX and his old BMX friends.
And talking about dad joke battles, if you're interested in getting involved, make sure you email us at
ECITV@bmxultra.com.
And we'll have Sean get in touch with you, and Dozer, I should say, because not so many people know him as Sean. Get in touch with you, and he will organise a dad joke battle either with you or maybe help you with a friend doing a dad joke battle. But we do have people starting to line up now. I know Michael Bias is pretty keen. So I told Sean to get in touch with him. So that'll be an interesting one to see, a bit of a trans-Tasman challenge.
The other thing too with the dad joke battle, if there is someone that you would like to battle against, we do have a few people like Max Cairns and even Connor Fields who's happy to do it again. So if you want to take on someone like Max or Connor or Tony Harvey or anyone like that, they're up for quite happy to do another dad joke battle. So yeah, if you're just sitting out there and you'd like to try and take on someone like Connor Fields, by all means, just hit us up and we'll connect you.
So Lauren Reynolds expressed interest as well, didn't she?
She certainly did, yeah. And
I just noticed that you called it a dud joke battle. That's what would happen if you and I did one, I think.
Yeah, I must admit, when I was talking to Lauren about the dad joke battles, it's I don't know whether we need to come up with a sort of a non-sexist sort of title for it, but at this stage we'll just stick with dad joke battles, or maybe we do call it dud joke battles. Michael Byers would be quite happy with that, wouldn't he?
If we take all the vowels out, I think he'd be happy with it.
Okay, mate, so what have we got coming up next week?
So we're lining up some more interviews. I don't want to go into too much detail, but hopefully we get another international pro rider having a discussion with us, and potentially another manufacturer. We're going to try and get a local manufacturer, but I'm not going to mention names. You'll just have to wait and see. But if there is anyone you want to hear from in the bicycle industry, maybe one of your heroes from the days of BMX past, or anyone of the top pro riders today, just shoot us a message, an email to ECI Imports. Whoa, I got it wrong. ECITV at bmxultra.com. And
just on Facebook or anywhere.
Yeah, we'll get it happening. That's about all I can think of. You got anything else we might be doing in the near future?
No, I don't think so. We've just got to remember out there in TV land or whatever that we're here for you. So if as Shane said, if there is someone you'd like us to interview or a subject you'd like us to cover, just let us know, because whatever you want, we'll bring to the screen for you. So
we do have people lined up to give us reports from interstate once racing recommences. So that was Queensland, South Australia, New South Wales. We'll cover Victoria and Tasmania. But we're starting to build up a bit of an international flavour as well. So I might get Michael Byers to start talking to us regularly about what's happening in New Zealand, what's coming up. But if there's anybody else from any other country that wants to have a chat with us on a regular basis, make sure you get in touch with us too. We're quite happy to talk to anybody from anywhere. Just don't make us talk to each other.
Okay, well, that's probably about it for us.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next week.
Yep. Cheers and stay safe. And hopefully we're all out of this COVID-19 very soon.
Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at ECITV BMX, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at ECI Imports. Fingers crossed we'll be coming out of COVID very soon, and we will go back to our regular programming.
And we'll be filming side by side.
I don't know if that's as exciting as actually filming at the track, possibly.
Okay, everyone. Till next week. Yeah, but I noticed that you must sit a little bit further away from because I seem a bit bigger than you when we're on the side by side on the screen.
It's not about size, you know.
It is. I told you, it's all about that. And besides, if I sit too close, you see too many blemishes.
It means you've been around the BMX track for a while. Can you see the screen from all the way back there?
What was that? I can't hear. Nah, it's all good. Fighting the need for glasses. I only wear glasses down here.
All right.
Never wear them anywhere else. I'm quite happy just driving into trees and things. Drive by touch.
What about you, Gary? Do you need anything?
Give him a coffee.
Yeah, coffee, yeah, white and one. Latte.
What? I know that.
I'll email it to him. Espresso.
I had 100 Red Bulls. The only reason I won.